Scorpion EVO.
Yeah, welcome back to the Spent Brass channel, guys. We got a pretty exciting video for you today. You got Pistol Pete, the Beard, Ella Scorpion, Marone with us. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Wow, I speak Spanish now.
Yes, you
So, pretty exciting video for you today. We're doing a 9mm pistol caliber carbine shootout, and we've really narrowed it down to two that we'll be sharing with you today. But I thought I'd kick off with a couple that are not on this table, and that's the High Point 9mm carbine, low capacity carbine, kind of hard to take down. I had one for a while, I ended up getting rid of it just because it wasn't that great. It wasn't bad for the money, but really not the same playing field as these guys. I had the JRC, the Just Right carbine, 9mm AR, which I ended up not SBRing, which was kind of my plan. It suppressed well, but you know, it was hard to take down. It was heavy. You know, it weighed more than your standard AR, and it just wasn't really there. We've played with some other pistol caliber carbines like the Chris Vector. We've had a couple guys come out here and we've run them. I think they were in 45, but we're kind of grouping them in. Had some reliability issues. Had a couple weird issues with those, so we're kind of shying away from those. Put it in the comments if you have one and you love it. That's great.
They look ugly.
Yeah, they're kind of funky looking. The recoil impulse isn't bad, but you know, not going into too much detail, we're kind of not really grouping them in with these. We don't feel that they're quite at the same. You know, they're not playing the same ball game. There's some other stuff you could probably group in, like a 9mm Tavor, which you know, price-wise is getting there, but it's also really heavy. You know, you're giving up a couple pounds on what we're going to be showing you today, and you know, again, kind of a
trigger, the Tavor trigger.
Yeah, costs start getting up there with that rig fast too, so we're not going to include that. Another obvious one I think is going to be the HK MP5 or any of the clones that have been out. I think there's like a POF or a PFO or something like that. A couple Indian made one. There's the Zenith. So those are coming to market here and there, but I don't think the availability and the popularity is quite at the same level with what we're showing you today, which is Scorpion CZ Scorpion EVO. And
we're going to show you the Sig MPX. Both of these, all three of these were bought as pistols, and we've all gone through the necessary steps to SBR them. And we're all running suppressed as well,
Yep.
which was the way that we wanted to build these, and they're just a lot of fun to run in this configuration. So I've done a lot of looking, you guys did a lot of looking, and these two gentlemen, they went with the Scorpion. In fact, I didn't even want this. I wanted to go with the LWRC 45 SMG.
Yeah.
It debuted at SHOT Show almost 2 years ago. It was supposed to come to market summer 2016. I emailed the guy a couple of weeks ago. He told me it's just not happening. What prompted me to purchase this is 41P became 41F. People had to get their gear in. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, with the change in the submission laws around SBRs and suppressors and stuff.
I was even so committed to the LWRC 45 SMG that I purchased a 45 suppressor in order to run with that. But, you know, knowing what I know now, would I have still bought this? I don't know. I mean, I really like it, but it was a panic buy, and I bought it from Alpha Cat Armory. He always takes care of us. He gave me a really good price on this. Everything sans the buttstock I got from him. So it runs, and this is what I got, and what I'm working with, and I'm very happy with it. But LWRC, if you're watching this, I
Release
still
the
want
45.
Come on.
You know, people
Help us
will
out.
buy the hell out of it. You guys are leaving money on the table. So why a pistol caliber carbine? Why not just a rifle? I honestly think that one of the biggest use cases for these is the fact that they can be suppressed, and it could potentially make a terrific home defense weapon, which I don't know if a lot of people really think about that. But if you were to fire an AK-47 or a AR-15 inside your house, or even a 12-gauge shotgun,
Right.
it's going to blow your friggin' ears out.
You're gonna
So,
be hurt.
you might live another day, you're going to be deaf in an ear. So, you know, it's a couple tax stamps, but a pistol caliber carbine's really small, really handy, doesn't have a lot of recoil, can be suppressed, can run subsonic ammunition, and be quite effective, I think, in close quarters combat. So
That's one reason. I specifically chose this particular setup because I'm not very good with a pistol, and I do a lot of backpacking,
Yep.
hiking, ride my mountain bike, camping. We all do these things.
Yep.
Off-roading, and
Truck gun.
a full-size AR-15. Like I've got truck gun, and if you guys have watched this show before, you know that I love running truck gun out of these running guns. But this thing packs away so nice. It fits inside this little backpack that I can keep in any of my vehicles,
Yeah.
and no one's the wiser. If you're trying to put, you know, you can get an AK-47 to fold, but you're gonna have to get it down to short barrel lengths if you want to SBR it. And a pistol cartridge is made to run in a shorter barrel. You get a little more performance running it out of a longer barrel, but you're not going to give up anything.
Yeah, the
like say
ballistics are still effective.
when you start to shoot 223, you're losing the real oomph in the round.
Yeah, you're losing all those feet per second. So, there's some really cool, unique things that these are particularly good at.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the market pretty much dictates by popularity what people buy, and what becomes popular as to what's good, right? So I think that the market pretty much agrees that these two models probably sell more than anything else.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of following. There's a lot of other YouTube channels. I don't mind mentioning by name, but you know, Military Arms Channel, he did a video where he compared them, and I think he ultimately, I don't want to speak for him, but he did his comparison and he came to his conclusions, and you know, just circumstances have led us down this journey, and we wanted to bring a comparison video to the table too.
With a couple more opinions too.
Yeah, we're different people. We have different needs and different wants. So what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. But you know, keep in mind that this found me, and you guys kind of fixated on those and chose those.
So we've been. What's cool about El Scorpion and I'll let you rap about this, but we've actually had these since about when they came out. Yep. And I kind of got mine from you. So.
Well, it was my choice. I was looking at something, and my first choice was actually the MPX. That was the first one that kind of caught my eye. They was talking about being able to change calibers and this and the other, and the biggest thing that kind of stopped me from going there was that price, and you couldn't find it. You just couldn't find it anywhere. Everybody was, you know, it was one of those kind of like that 45 you were talking about. It was awesome idea and everything, but it wasn't there. You couldn't find it anywhere. And these ones, I mean, it took a little bit because we got them right when they started coming out, and I did a little bit of research, did the reading. I like CZ as a company, and
he's a CZ fanboy, basically.
And with the bolt guns and everything else that I have,
we're getting rained on, guys. By the way, we're just gonna keep rolling.
Keep rolling. These cameras, electronics are cheap, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, these guys are proven. I was hesitant about being a polymer gun, but I ended up buying another one, and I was just kind of. At first, I wanted to keep it as a pistol and maybe run it, and the other one, I knew I was gonna do a tax stamp on it, and.
So we bought two.
Yeah, I bought two.
Yeah, you bought both of these.
Yeah,
I bought these two right here, and
he calls me up one day, and he's like, dude, let's go. I want to show you something. And he pulls this EVO out, and I'm like, oh man, that's a fad. That I honestly thought, I was like, that polymer gun fad. I thought it was, you know, I didn't know much about them. You pulled it out, and they were in pistol form.
the one that I pulled out, because I only took one with me.
Yep.
And we just sighted it in, kinda.
Yep. And I got hooked right away.
Yeah,
I was like,
and it
man,
was
I
shooting
get it.
fine. It was
know?
doing good. And I told him, well, what's your plan with it? And I told him right away, this is gonna be, you know, an SBR and you know, caliber with a 9mm ball ammo, or just any kind of ammo. But that was pretty much my idea. I was gonna run the cheapest stuff that I can get, so I can just get practice on it.
Which is another point, dude. 9mm ammo is cheap.
Yeah,
you know,
affordable.
20 cents a round, 18 cents a round for steel. That's a lot less than even like 33 cents a round for like Wolf Gold and an AR. So it's also cheaper.
It's affordable. The only now real quick, just touch on ammo. I didn't even want a 9mm carbine.
He was against 9.
I've never shot 9. I never owned it. My dad bought me a 45 when I was younger, and then he got me a 40 cal. And I catch a lot of gripe for being, in the middle, the bisexual caliber. But another reason I wanted that 45 SMG. So when these guys started building these, I had absolutely no interest in it. They started off as these weird RoboCop pistols, but you guys have shot these through the whole gamut. Like you guys have shot these with the brace system, and I mean these have grown on me watching you guys shooting and watching the performance they've had. And so, like El Scorpion said, when he got me into the idea of finally getting one of these, I had the Sig on my radar because I was told, like all of you were, that there would be a 45 cal conversion. And so I thought, well, if I hold out long enough, 357 Sig, cool, 9mm, 40 cal, and I thought if I hold out long enough, maybe I can just buy it in 40 cal. It's one less round that I have to purchase and keep. And the other thing that I thought, if now let's go way back, let's travel back in time during the Sandy Hook uproar when things were tough to find, I could still buy 45.
True.
I could not find 9mm. I remember talking with you guys, and every time I'd hit a store, hit a Walmart, if I saw any, I would buy it up for you guys. Did I add to the problem? Absolutely, but so did a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I've got a lot of 40, I've got a lot of 45. It's a really expensive gun, so if I make this jump, I want to keep, some consistency in my systems. But that being that, I've come around. In fact, you guys have gotten messages from me like, hey, this place is in stock, and El Scorpion would be like, look who's coming around buying cases of 9mm now. Yeah. And you know what? It's got
capacity.
You got greater capacity. You can get the heavy Projos. Those heavy Projos, they like to suppress better. 45, it just runs at that suppressed level. You're not going to get better performance by running a lighter Projo. You're not going to get these hotter rounds. So it really did open me up to shooting a lot more. So I do have you to blame for that, for a little less money in the bank account and a lot more ammo stacked up. But 9mm,
it's a kick-ass round. It does a lot of cool stuff. It can be cheap to shoot. It can have a tremendous amount of defense capabilities. It's there's really no arguing that at this point.
So the first thing that you will notice about the Sig is if you shoot a Sig, you get to join an exclusive class of Sig fanboys. I'm a charter member because I don't have too much stuff, but I'm getting there. So you think I'm kidding? Some guys are really, they're in the CZ fan club, so they don't understand this. Let's talk about the Sig. So one of the greatest benefits about the Sig MPX is it is incredibly familiar. You guys don't own this. I threw it in your hands. Would you say that it was easy for you to know where everything fit?
Ergos are just like an AR-15 pretty much.
Yeah, so they're right there. You actually get a couple of other things. You get ambidextrous controls. You get that not with just the safety selector, but your bolt catch release, your magazine release. It's even got a cute little dust cover like your AR-15. So if you pick this up, if you're running AR-15s, everything is just gonna be where you expect it to be. It's got a nice trigger from the factory. What did we ran that trigger pull? It ran about 6.25 pounds, reliably. But if you're the type of guy that you want your stuff across the board to be a little bit better, if you like a 2-stage, if you like to be able to tune your trigger, you're going to be able to just drop in any of your AR triggers. You're going to be really happy with this. And I do kind of tease Sig being a fanboy brand, but if you've got the MCX and the MPX, you're not going to give up anything. You're gonna run them both the way you like it. I also like the fact that it's real generous in the handguard. The suppressor can fit right in there without any problems, and that's that's a nice thing. Your grip, if you want to change that out, you're going to be able to do that.
An AR grip.
Run yourself an AR grip. The way that the buttstocks will attach to these, there's a Picatinny rail back there. I've got 2 different rails right now. I'm running. This is from a local company.
2 different stocks.
Stocks. I'm running 2 different stocks.
Yep.
Thank you. This one was from a local company. They've since gone out of business, but they were called God Ammo LLC, and it's a really well built stock. I know El Scorpion was running it, and you know, being that he hasn't run this before, it's shorter, but it's a small package. It's
Yeah, it
supposed to
collapses
be
down small.
And it saved a little money. I'm sure there's a Sig version out there. I also have the Sig side folder, which I like a lot better for running and gunning, but this thing's been spending a lot of time in my pack, and this just, it folds down nicer, and you know, I think I like this one better. So those are the pros of this particular thing. I mean, yeah, it comes with flip-up sights, but I think most guys are gonna
Full top rail. And
full top rail. You know, it breaks down. It's a piston gun. Gas blowback. I didn't say anything when I handed this over to you guys. There's been a lot of people out there saying that there's gas
blowback on the side.
gas blowback issues, but with maybe they're running something different. But the way that I'm running this, you know, I handed it off to the guys. I said, run it hard, and they didn't.
Maybe it's because we're not running a 9
Nice.
can, maybe. I don't know.
That could be it. It's in a 45 can. That might be something, and it still suppresses well. Another feature that the performance that I liked about it is we've run all kinds of steel case 9mm through these, everything on the table. This didn't have any hiccups, so you know.
I think I recall a jam or two.
Oh, let's talk about the jam. So we did. The Lancer mags are available. Well, I think it's the only thing available for the Sig right now, and it's a darn fine mag. In fact, it's my favorite magazine. I think this is added value.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of little post that's connected to the base plate of these, or the follower, or whatever it is, and I think it's in the follower. And what I did is I neutered that. I knocked that out. So I've been able to increase my capacity to 34 rounds. It's crazy, and so I keep wanting to stuff more and more and more in, not paying attention to the fact that, you know, you do need to be able to compress this so that the bolt can strip off the round.
Yeah.
And I was creating so much pressure inside here.
Yeah, that
that
it just wasn't wanting to run with too many rounds in it. It wasn't reliable, basically.
And you know, I'm operating with this outside the scope of its intended purpose, but we live in Arizona. It's a do what you want state. So
I mean, other than the fact that it's modified and it kind of reduced the reliability with more rounds, the mags for the Sig are really good. They are pretty expensive.
Yes, they
and
are.
for a while, they were hard to come by.
Oh,
yeah,
very hard.
Everything about this gun for a while was hard to come by, and I've talked to Alpha Cat about that, and you'll notice that there's a Gen 1 and there's a Gen 2. And Gen 1, I don't know all the ins and outs. I'm not an engineer, but Gen 1 was a disaster in the sense that the conversion kit just didn't work. Something maybe about the magazines. The magazines are now different. Gen 2 magazines have a tan follower. I've been told you can run either one. I've just been running Gen 2s because that's what Alpha Cat set me up with. To Sig's credit, a lot of people might criticize this, but when Sig came out with the Gen 2, they actually made it available that you can get an entire upper for the new caliber if that's the way you want to go. And some people might say, oh, it didn't work, but it speaks to their support that they're going to make that right.
So, I mean, beyond like those positives on the Sig, there's a couple things about it that kind of irks me too.
Yeah,
like, there's reasons why I didn't want to go with the Sig, and one of them was that if you're gonna do like an AR-15, if they kind of copied the ergos of the AR-15, I feel like you kind of can go either way there. You can either go full AR-15 and have full interchangeability, or not, and they kind of fell somewhere in the middle. And instead of being full AR-15 compatibility, so you know, you're talking about a proprietary rail system.
That's right.
Aftermarket companies will probably make a couple if there aren't already a couple available, but there's some proprietariness to the rail.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The rail is going to be proprietary. The bolt is going to be proprietary.
Yeah.
Those things.
Charging handle.
The charging handle.
That's one of the things that irked me from ergonomically. If I was going to change one thing on an AR-15, especially for a PCC, it'd be give me a side charger or something like that.
Right.
You know, which is something that the MP5 did really well.
If this thing had a side charger, that would be tits. And I don't know why it doesn't. You know, it's all engineering spec. But
the thing is about the AR-15 charging handle that they use, or style charging handle they use, is it's proprietary. So you can't even really swap it out and use,
if you have issues, I've had issues. I seared off these roll pins because it's got dual latches. I seared off both roll pins at different times, and it was a pain in the butt. It put me down because it doesn't work with just one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a criticism, like it didn't work.
The other thing was the piston system. Like, I like piston ARs and I like AKs, and pistons are generally pretty good, but I just don't see the need for the added complexity of a piston system in a PCC. A lot of the ones I rattled off earlier were blowback. The Scorpion Evo is blowback. I don't really see the need for the piston system. I mean, it hasn't affected anything. I don't think you've ever bothered to clean yours.
I haven't even cleaned this, and the only thing that and I'm not defending the platform, like those are real criticisms. The only thing when I sit there and I think about it, which isn't very often, this maybe was an afterthought to the MCX.
Maybe.
And so if we start talking about interchangeability, if you own the MCX and you own the MPX, now you actually do have interchangeability. One of the things that I really want is I want to be able to purchase the extended rail that comes on the MCX. It will bolt right up to the MPX, and that'll let my handguard come out. I haven't measured where it would come out, but if I could shroud the entire suppressor, I think that would be a super cool look. When I take those longer shots and I need a rest, I don't have to worry about resting it on the suppressor.
Yeah.
So,
But comparatively,
from an interchangeability perspective,
if you're not running a suppressor, it adds to the overall length. And these
Right.
are SBRs, and one of the
Right.
cool things about that is the
is that
compactness.
you can shoot them.
And that's not a specific thing negative about it's just an observation, because I know with the EVO, they're coming out, Manicore Arms has come out with a extended fore end, so it's kind of the same concept that we're talking about.
I get what you're saying.
And I'm not hot for it because it's going to add overall length to something that I don't really need. So
Yeah, to your point, I don't have an MCX, so I don't have interchangeability with anything. If this thing goes down, which it has with that charging handle issue, it's done. I'm dead in the water.
Yep.
And if this is all you have, well, that's something to consider. And the price, as long as we're just going over it, we won't compare it yet, but the price on these are not inexpensive. It's a tremendous purchase price. I
it's
mean,
an investment.
$1,300 to
13,
$1,400.
14 is kind of where we see them.
I got a better price on it because Phil's a friend, but he doesn't have. There's not a lot of wiggle room in these, but I think that if you're
Sig has that pricing where it has to be at their rate. Or
it's
whatever
called
they-
MAP, manufactured
pricing.
advertised pricing. They can't. A dealer cannot for MAP for anyone. If they have MAP pricing, you can't advertise lower than what they will allow you. Now you can they do things where like add to cart for lower price. You've seen that on slick guns.
Sure.
But you can get into this game cheaper. You can definitely do this on a budget and still have an awesome setup, and that's what you guys have done.
I mean, I want to kind of start transitioning over the EVO, and there's something I was just thinking about.
Let me
This
know.
is key mod, right?
This is key mod.
So this is key mod, which is cool. You can move the rails around, kind of customize it you want. We don't tend to, us guys don't tend to run a lot of heavy gear on our guns, but it's nice to have that option. But one of the things also talking about the MCS handguard, it would add some front heavy weight to that gun. And as we're
It's
gonna
already heavy in the front.
Yeah.
I mean, with this buttstock here, I mean, what you got a coat hanger off there.
yeah, and that's kind of it makes sense to kind of it's a natural
the
progression
balance
over
point
to
is
EVO.
somewhere around the magwell.
Yeah, which I mean, even then, it's like we noticed that we thought it. So after running these guns, our observations was that the MPX was heavier.
We thought it would be the heavier.
And spoiler alert, we measured these guns, and we weighed these guns, and as they were configured, they were damn close. Like
They were, depending on the sensitivity of our scale, these weighed in at 6.18 pounds.
Yeah, both of them were right there, and that was with no suppressor, with the same optic,
No magazines, no
so-
ammo, just the dry weight.
So it's actually a noticeable difference. Like
It feels different. That weight feels different.
So the MCX feels a little front heavy, and it kind of transitions us over to the EVO, which is a very different, totally different design, right?
Yeah.
Instead of copying like an AR, the Czechs basically created like a polymer MP5 type of deal.
That's how I consider it. It's pretty much the old school, and that's one of the things that kind of caught my eye at the beginning. It's because I'm a huge fan of the you know, the MP5.
Yeah.
You know, all the family, all that stuff. I grew up looking at those movies, and
Yeah.
and and, you know, it's 80s and all that stuff. That was a big roar. With this one, a size charger, you know, everything else, and you can change it to being ambi.
Yeah, so it's a side charging handle, right? Can be swapped to either side.
Yep.
Mine's wearing an HBI aluminum, like billet aluminum charging handle. The Scorpion's is a factory.
This is pretty much as factory as you're gonna get this thing, except minus the Holocene.
Yeah.
But factory trigger,
Target is down. Walker.
ambi selector, still with that what do you call it? That
Hit. Moving.
people were complaining
One
about
each,
the
starting on the
sharpness
right.
of the other side.
Yeah, digging into your hand.
Digging into your, it doesn't bother me, so I
Hit.
left it there.
Hit.
And I
Transition.
did leave it alone just because it doesn't bother me.
Hit.
I even
Moving.
purchased, actually Peter was the one that ordered it for me, the delete kit, and I never touched it. This is actually a gun that I haven't even opened up pretty much. But I mean, other than maybe you know, vertical grip and the light, that's the only upgrades. And well, of course, once you got the stamp, getting the full name stock from it. That's about it. And I was very hesitant about itself being an all polymer gun, but it runs, and it runs smooth. I haven't had any issues with ammo other than maybe I dropped a mag and it was a little bit dirty and I put it in, or I don't know, maybe I loaded too many rounds in it. or
Yeah, and
something like
I've
that.
done the same exact thing. I mean,
And this will eat everything.
Yeah, the thing about the EVO is that it's just damn reliable. I barely ever clean mine. It eats anything you put in it, and it just keeps gobbling it up. And I mean, starting from the front to back on the EVO, there are some weird things. It's got an 18x1 thread pitch, which is not standard in the U.S. So that
Except
adds
the
a
new
little.
ones.
Yeah, the new ones have changed, but you know, if you're looking at them, you probably want to consider that. If you're running a suppressor or you want to run different muzzle devices, that's kind of funky. You know, I'm running mine's 18x1, yours is too.
I think it's actually 14x1, isn't it?
No, it's 18, I think,
Is it
by 1.
18? Okay.
14 by 1's like that 8K left hand. But there's a right hand too. But what I did is I actually had, this is a Guardian 9 suppressor. I bought a 1/2x28 standard adapter for this. I had it bored out and I threaded it to 18x1. I actually had Iser Custom Firearms do it. And so that's a direct thread suppressor and it works fantastic. You know, no problem. So there are workarounds. It's a little bit of a tomfoolery to get that going. A little bit of inconvenience, but that was relatively inexpensive to do.
Yeah.
Now my can's direct thread. And one thing talking about that's nice about the MPX, it has those key mods, you can move stuff around. One thing that kind of irks me a little bit about the EVO is it's got these polymer rails that are built right into it.
Yeah.
You can't take them off. We both run ladder rails on these because it's like cheese graters on your front hand. We both run vertical foregrips because of how compact they are, and it's a little more natural to kind of get in like that. But it's something to keep in mind. I mean, these rails are cheap,
right.
so you can throw these on. I've seen guys mill them off. There's
Yeah.
some aftermarket things coming off. We mentioned Manticore Arms is coming out with
Yeah.
a forend.
To add to that, it is a pain in the ass to take them off.
Yeah.
Especially with the newer guns that came out. You have to buy pretty much a special barrel wrench to take it off. So I was very interested in taking and running, like the Beard was saying, that longer handguard and everything else to protect I can. But in all honesty, I don't run it enough with a silencer to actually make it a good purchase. And then I found out about the barrel nut and all this. It has to be changed and removed, and it was just a big it was a big no-no for me.
And you're gonna lose that compactability.
Yeah.
With the Sig, you can pop this pin out, you can slide that off, you can pack it next to it. But if you know, we all backpack with these things, so if you're gonna extend it to here, and now that SBR has just become regular.
Yeah. What's the point of the
rifle
stamp
length.
at that point?
Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned teardown, or you mentioned taking it down. Both these guns are really easy to take down.
Yeah.
Pop a pin out, take the lower out on the EVO. Really easy to work on and screw around with. I've heard some of the newer ones have like welded trigger packs and stuff like that. Ours don't. I don't know about the details there, but there's some things about the EVO out of the box that are kind of, so the cheese graters is something I didn't love. The 18x1 thread pitch I didn't love. The ergos are a little different, but they're actually pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. Tell me the things that you changed on this because you didn't like it. You wanted to upgrade those
Yeah,
things.
so mine's upgraded, and the thing about this is we'll complain a little bit about these things, but the reality is they're super cheap to change. So that charging handle from HBI is super high-end piece. It was really inexpensive.
You can put them back to back if you want.
Yeah, like if you want to see it, you
Let's
can see
move
this
this
one's
one in.
billet. And the Scorpions is like
So this is going to be your factory,
yep.
and then this is going to be your aftermarket.
Does it really add or change any? It's not really that big of a thing.
No. I mean, we both run them, and we've never had a problem that, oh, I missed it or I did this, because once you rack it the first time, you're good.
You're good.
And then you have your bolt release in the back.
Yep. Built-in bolt hold open to the charging handle is really kind of neat.
Yeah.
I use that once in a while, and then you could do the slap down, which is always a lot of fun, right? So that's kind of neat, cheap upgrade. The reason that I bought this charging handle was because of the trigger, actually, and I wasn't super happy with the trigger. You can see mine's modified with an HBI trigger blade. I'm also using their trigger springs. So the stock pull on these was, what was it? 7, what was the
A
stock
little bit
pull?
over 7 pounds.
7 3/4
So
stock.
we average around 7 3/4 on El Scorpions, which is not terrific. It's got a lot of creep in it. It's got some grit in it. The trigger isn't great, and it's not like the MPX.
It has gotten better, just to add to that.
Smoothed out.
Yeah, a little bit smoother. But this gun has, I would just say, over probably 2,000 rounds already.
Gosh, we've been running these for a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that to consider. So the trigger isn't great. It's kind of like almost like a Tavor trigger a little bit. It's got some grittiness, but for really cheap and a little bit of elbow grease, you can get into one of these HBI triggers. It gives you this flat blade, which is really cool. I use their forward trigger, which actually moves it forward a little bit and gives you a little bit more finger length to pull. But the real reason I went with these guys' products is because HBI offers like a $8 or $12 spring kit.
Yeah.
That you can swap in. I was like, hey, when I heard about that, I want to try it. When I took my lower off and I took my trigger apart to put in the springs, I polished everything at the same time, and that results in what I consider an absolutely usable trigger setup on this gun for very inexpensive, less than what you would pay for an AR-15 drop-in trigger. Maybe not as good, but we're looking at what, 4.5 or 4.25 pound pull on mine. The polishing really smoothed up the pull. The wall isn't super firm, but it does have a pretty clean break. And overall, the reset is solid too. And even with the modifications, mine has still been perfectly reliable.
Yeah, I mean, I can probably polish mine and have a pretty, I wouldn't say decent, but a lot better trigger. It's not as the quality as you have on yours, because you do notice a difference, especially when you start going a couple of rounds, you know, in rapid fire. You feel that difference.
Or even at that final shot that's over 100 yards, and you really got to dial it in when you're just running a red dot.
Especially for a follow-up shot, that's the biggest one. If you miss and you want to do another one or double tap, I've shot with yours and run the course with yours, and double tapping on yours is a lot easier than mine.
Yep.
You kind of have to get into the you know, I mean, I like triggers. I like light triggers, and but
you run Elfman, you run Geisley, you
yeah,
run nice stuff
so
in your ARs.
ARs, yeah. So we have those, and we kind of got spoiled, and we kind of get used to them.
Yeah.
But with this one, I don't know, something about the gun just made me want to keep it as stock as I could. I mean, it runs and it runs good, and I noticed a little bit of change on the trigger itself, so might as well see what it does. And it's a good comparison and contrast with his, that anything else that you can probably put into it got added into it.
There's some new stuff I haven't got into yet, like that forend we mentioned, but we also talked about why I'm not really interested.
You mentioned the grip. You changed that out too.
The grip was kind of the next thing down. This is a company called Yeti Works. Really awesome guys, came out with a Matterhorn and Everest grips for this. I think they've come out with a couple other products. I apologize for not checking.
They might have Gen 2s or something.
Yeah, and this was actually, I think, a 3D printed grip or something like that. And it's pretty awesome. They have another one that has a hump on the back.
Well, I think that's what it is. It has replaceable back straps.
The new ones do, yeah. This is one of the first ones. When I saw that this came out, I bought it because I did not like, frankly, I didn't like the look of the factory grip. There wasn't anything wrong with it on the EVO. I didn't like that it didn't have a tremendous amount of traction on it, but it's not like the thing's ripping out of your hands. You're not shooting a 357.
It's got a big swell on the bottom. I mean,
yeah,
that's
your hand's not slipping off. But what I particularly like about this is I'm running one of these like A2, I think, grip plugs, where I don't even remember where I got this. I got it at a gun show for like $1. And I actually keep my tax stamp stuff in a little plastic bag in the bottom. So I always have my little plastic bag in here. Just kind of a little nice thing, because if you did get yanked and you had to show your stamp, it's in there.
It's funny you mention that with the Sig. It's got a folding latch. I have to use my pocket knife. I won't fool with it right now, but I keep my tax stamps inside the handle. I mean, the grip. You never know who's going to come across you. And, you know, people always debate, like, oh, LEO isn't allowed
Skittles
to.
on mine.
Skittles. It's nice.
Look at the size
it's smart
of that.
to have.
That's a 2-finger hole in there, guys.
Whoa.
Don't stretch it.
Yours
Don't
actually
stretch
looks like it might have had some stretching. I don't know. So moving back, guys, last thing is these stocks. So I bought the 922R kit. I was on pre-order for this when it first came out, which came with some other 922R stuff that, of course, I'm running, and I'm totally in compliance at all times.
For the mags
Absolutely.
and everything.
Yep. And I mean, this is the factory CZ stock. I freaking like this stock because of the way you can kind of snug up to it. It fits really well, especially with this height red dot. It is length of pull adjustable. I love the stock on these. It's pretty lightweight, but it balances out well. I mean, from a handling perspective, it's kind of crazy that it's that noticeable that the MPX is a little bit more front heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely notice
Especially
it,
being
and
the same weight.
And because of that, you know, you do run it a little bit differently. Like it's not a lot of weight, but it's enough that it matters. It's enough that you feel it.
Yeah, and it's almost like splitting hairs though, because of how awesome these guns are. Because I don't know, like, we're kind of griping a little bit, but both of these are really
I mean, those are fair
sick.
criticisms. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to come here and tell you that everything about my rifle is perfect and everything about yours is garbage. I don't believe that. I've shot that, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. And you know, the follow-up shots on that are great. That trigger upgrade, that's great. The only things, if I could bitch, no, I'm not gonna bitch. The only thing I'm gonna say about this that I've had trouble with is, and I've criticized other things, is I don't like when the throw is that close.
Too short.
A lot of guys, you know, they tout that as a feature, but I'm an AR-15 guy from the beginning, and when we do
throw, right?
when we do run and gun out here, safety is very important to us, and I find
we
myself
usually run safety. Even sometimes I do it when I'm changing between locations on a barricade.
every time.
It's just it's in your brain, and sometimes I find myself doing it. I'm like, man, I put the safety on. You know?
Yeah, I transition to my safety every single time because it's not worth. You know, this isn't war. This is just fun, and I don't need to be super fast. So I find myself going from fire to safe, and I keep messing with it, thinking that I'm not getting it far enough. And then when I go to fire, it doesn't throw far enough in my mind, and I keep pushing it down when I get to the barricade, and I go, I know that some people say that's a feature and it's the greatest thing in the world, but do I need to save that much time? I'd rather have that peace of mind knowing that it's where I want it to be.
I should probably mention too that I am running the safety delete, and although the mag release is ambi, and the safety throw lever on this is safety, I'm running the delete. It got in my way a little bit, so I just, I did it just to do it.
Yeah, and to kind of go with that, I'm on the opposite side. I like that short throw. My brand has it too, and what I like this one for is that I thumb to go to shoot. When I'm ready to put on safe, just put it back with my trigger finger.
Maybe I'm using it wrong. It just, in my mind, I mean, I criticize the SCAR for the exact same reason.
It's true.
That's just me. The brand, the SCAR, that I think I'll continue to criticize that. Another thing that I don't own these, so it's not second nature to me, and that's one of the things I was admiring about the Sig was that it's kind of second nature if you're an AR-15 guy.
Yeah, true.
When I run this, I really appreciate the more generous mag weld that you get with the Sig. Because
it's just got maybe a little bit more flair.
It's got a little more flair. I mean, again, we're not competition shooters.
Not flair like if you work at a restaurant.
Not like the flair that you have to work at a restaurant, but it's got a little more flair in the magazine.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wish that and again, maybe this is just because I don't shoot these as much as you guys, but when I'm empty, I can't feel it catch as distinctly as I can with this. And El Scorpion and he even brought that up to me about he knew he was on an empty chamber.
Yeah, well, I did, but I do feel it with this one. I don't know why I wouldn't, because it's a chunky bolt on the Scorpion.
Yeah, the bolt's pretty heavy
So
because it's a blowdown.
I notice it, but I guess it's just like you said. If you kind of shoot and you get used to it, on yours, it wasn't as obvious as an AR-15.
No, but it's pretty apparent.
But it was something that I caught up pretty quick, and it once I did the mag change and everything, it was so easy to do it just because I knew the battery alarms of an AR. So it was, and it was without thinking, like what goes here. I did it, and I was like, boom! I was starting shooting again, and I didn't even think about it until later on. I was like, oh yeah, I guess it was a pretty, it wasn't a fast or anything like that, but it was a.
It looked good.
Without
it
problems.
Looked good. I was concerned that you would criticize something when you're doing your mag change, and I was filming you that time, and your mag change was flawless, and you even gave it the old bolt slap or bolt catch release. You just slapped it, went right in, and you continued your shooting.
So I'm going to interject because I agree with you guys. I totally do. But just from like a devil's advocate perspective, if you really think about the ergonomics of the mag release on the EVO, it's pretty freaking sweet because your hand is here. You've got this on either side if you're lefty or righty. You can just pop out the mag.
Yeah.
You jam another one in, bolt hold open, your thumb hits the release there, you're done. Or you can, you know, if you locked it back, you can just let it go. So that's like a training thing. It just so happens that the AR is super popular. We all run ARs all the time.
Yeah.
So
we
it
have
does
several
have
of them.
I think it's a lot like the Tavor. If we you know, the Tavor, when it first came out, everyone touted the ergonomics of it and how it was going to
the
change
mag
the
release
way
was
the
going to
mag.
bump.
Yeah, and look at the second generation. They've completely switched it up to match the AR-15. And
Yeah.
if you're a brand new shooter and you've never really experienced anything before, and you learn everything on the
Tavor or the EVO
or on the EVO, you're probably going to run that gun better than a guy
at least
that
as good.
never.
At least as good.
Well, I'm saying if you take two guys, one guy who's only had that platform and he knows where all the movements and the ins and outs are, he's obviously going to run it better. But you know, those are just little criticisms. It doesn't take away from the platform as a
He
whole.
didn't have already that experience with the AR, so
Right, the
he's not
preconceived
yeah, exactly.
experiences.
I agree with that.
There was one thing I think we missed, and that's that these do come with iron sights too. And I always forget because I took mine off because my Holosun, I trust them. You know, I by the time you get out in the hills, you don't want your stuff breaking because you used your gas, your time, all stuff. I trust it so much. I took my irons off, but El Scorpion's still running those irons. You want to, you know, give some. I haven't used mine in so long. I really don't.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't use them. So I have them there just as a backup. I like having them, just like I do my ARs. Some I don't. I keep it nice and clean, just or pretty much because I'm running a scope for most of them. But they're pretty good. I mean, like we were talking earlier, when we actually took this out the first time, it took us about maybe 10 minutes, and that's because we had to kind of had to read instructions.
Yeah.
And find the tool that
It's
was
not
in the
that
box.
hard.
Yeah.
We're just not that bright.
Not
Right?
instructing
It took
people.
us a little
we
bit.
We mentioned the instruction not reading before in our Scar Bren video.
And this one, it has different apertures in the back, so it would have different sizes.
Like there's a peep sight, there's a more open
peep
barrel
sight,
sight.
then
Are there
so
three
maybe
or
more precision. I think there's 3 or 4.
Yeah, pretty sweet. I mean, they're metal. They're on. They're
Yeah,
good.
they
What
are
are you
metal.
giving me an eye test? Better or worse? Better or worse?
But they're pretty cool.
No,
like,
that's a cool feature.
Yeah.
As that rear sight closes, you're gonna be able to shoot that much better.
Yeah.
Your competition shooters are using that, and if it gives you better accuracy, why not? I thought when you said you were gonna talk about one more thing, I thought you were gonna talk about your magazines.
Yeah, that's one of
Let's
yeah,
talk
you know,
about
that's-
these magazines.
Let's talk EVO magazines because these are kind of a hot topic.
Yeah.
Right. People are saying that they've had some feed lips break, and I've heard it from multiple sources. So I'm not saying that's not legitimate because it sounds like there was a batch or something like that, or people are being rougher with them than we are, and we're not nice to our stuff particularly. I don't think. We're dropping these mags, we're doing mag changes, we're jamming it home, we're loading them all the way full.
and leaving them loaded.
Well, you've left yours, you have a mag that you've left loaded for...
Yeah, I've actually have one of the original 20 rounders, and it's been loaded probably
Gotta be closing in on 2 years.
at least,
Because it took us how long just to get the stamps
Yeah.
for these?
So, and the only reason it didn't get loaded as soon as I got the gun, it was because I was shooting with it. It was the only 2 that I had. So it must have been a few months after that I bought the pistol. And once I got the 30 rounders, I forgot about the 20s.
Right.
And I had bought the 20s because those are the only ones that were available.
Yeah.
But I've had it loaded with hollow points, and it sits in the safe. I mean, that's been at
No
minimum.
swelling, no
cracking.
problem.
And I
Just-
can
I'll
mirror
have
that.
to check, but
I've got one that probably hasn't been loaded as long as yours. Mine's a 30 round. I've got hollow points in it, and it's perfect. In fact, neither one of us have had any mag crackage. We're running like, between the two of us, we probably have like maybe 20 mags or 18 mags.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
we haven't had any problems. So I'm not discounting that, but you got 2 data points here of guys who have run them that haven't cracked, but they aren't metal feed lips like a Lancer mag. And you know, I think that as Manticore, again, we're mentioning Manticore, they're good dudes, so I don't mind mentioning them. I use like some of their Tavor stuff. Sven over there, he's an awesome guy. They just released like a $30 mag. I think it's a 30 round.
Yeah, it's around $30, and
Or $30, yeah.
yeah, I think it actually is just under $30, and they have the feed lips and everything else. So I mean the metal feed lips. So, am I gonna buy them? Yes, I will. I will.
I was expecting a no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I
gonna
do.
run out and buy 'em.
Not that I'm gonna buy now. Oh, I gotta sell. I've heard people were saying this. I'm selling all my factory mags, and I'm getting these now. No,
Because if you would, I'd buy them.
yeah, and I'm not. So I have some mags that are still in the bags and never been used. So I just have them just because we're not nice. Like he said, you know, if you drop a mag out here, whether it's fully loaded and it lands in a little rock or a big rock, because there's some big stuff out here, it will crack. It will hurt something.
Yeah.
That Vector mag exploded. It
Yeah.
fell right on
The base
the
plate.
base plate.
Well, that was a
and-
Glock mag, actually, which is kind of weird because those run Glock mags.
Right.
Izor was running Glock mags.
Yeah,
and-
Izor destroyed that. It just fell. I mean, I guess it just wasn't loaded properly, and
But it was more than that. I mean, that was a Glock mag. That was like I don't remember, 20 some round, 45 Glock mag, but
I'm just
overall the
saying
Vector had other issues.
these are we drop them.
Yeah, no, I
We
mean, they're scratched up and stuff, and honestly, like on the flip side, I'm not gonna run out and buy those mags. I probably will try the Manticore mags eventually, but unless I start having problems with these, I probably won't. You know what I mean? And I'm probably gonna keep the ones that I have, run the crap out of them, and if they break, hey, they broke.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
but
it's plastic. It's not going to last forever. Even you know, AK mags, like people think, we were just talking about that today, people think that they last forever. You know, things wear out, and when you use them, things wear out. And I'm not a material scientist, but when you're talking about fusing a bunch of plastic into a shape, you know, you could have a bad batch, and it's just going to be a problem. So
I mean, the thing I would wrap up just from like the factory mag perspective, they're light. Mine have been durable. Would I prefer the factory Lancer mags? Probably.
who wouldn't? If you could get these Lancer mags for yours, you'd be lying to me if you told me you wouldn't buy them.
But it's almost like a natural transition over a value, and the mags are probably a really good place to start.
Yeah.
Because these can be had for around $15 right
Yeah,
now.
you're not
Some
buying
places
those.
$20.
You're not buying Sig products for that.
You can buy a crap load of these for $100, $200 and be set for a long time.
Hey, buy them and change them when they break out.
You know
when
what,
they
guys?
break, change them out.
I forgot to mention, if you have had mags break, comment. Yeah, so guys, we had to kick out El Scorpion, who's getting too amped up about the comparison.
It was really wearing on him. He's a passionate man.
He's a CZ fanboy. So we decided to make him sit in the sidelines for this kind of final wrap-up, which brings us to value equation, right? Talking money.
It's talking money.
And I think that, it probably makes sense just to start talking about how much these cost. And if you're talking to a Scorpion, I mean, these are available now. The EVOs are available right now in pistol form between, say, $700 and $800.
That's fair. Yeah, let's talk MSRP because some guys get discounts, some guys don't. But
That's
across
cool.
the board,
Yeah.
what did they want for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, you can get them for under $800, probably closer to $700 if you look around. Not counting the tax or whatever, other stuff. But retail, you can get them for under $800. And El Scorpions is really not much more than that. I mean, you start adding stocks and stuff like that. We're not going to really compare that as much as. Otherwise, his is pretty much factory, aside from his optic.
Yeah, and it runs.
On mine, I paid. I traded something for it, but if I was to talk value, that's a pretty good price point. That's the value of a lower cost quality AR-15.
Yeah.
A lot of guys can afford that and start to get into it. and maybe add on some of the upgrades about the gripes that we covered earlier as they go. So if you want to upgrade the trigger, you know, you save up. I think, well, it was so inexpensive to do. It was extremely high value, particularly the trigger upgrade on this. I bought the blade. You don't need to. For $8 and a little bit of wet sanding, you can have a really nice trigger in an EVO. So that actually is still a very value-minded. $8 for trigger springs, guys. A little bit of wet sanding and a little bit of polish work. I mean, that's elbow grease. That doesn't cost you anything. So value's really high on the EVO. Trigger sucked. Fixing it was pretty cheap. 18x1 stuff is available. You know, the stock. The grip was a little expensive, but if you really don't like the way it looks, you can upgrade it. But if you don't mind, you can keep it how it is and run it.
But you saved all that money everywhere else. You got money left over.
It's
or leave
true.
it alone.
I mean, other than that, and the charging handle's peace of mind a little bit, just having this nice piece. Not required to have a nice gun.
El Scorpion doesn't have it. He's got over, what do you say, 2,000 rounds?
He's got a ton of rounds.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's a fair assessment. That's got a lot of rounds.
Yeah, and I mean, mine does too. And at the end of the day, the Scorpion really does represent a really high value rig. Low cost ammo, lots of little itty bitty upgrades, more coming with the popularity of the gun as the aftermarket catches up. And I would argue that it's a pretty high value equation on the Scorpion, and that makes it really attractive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. It is a reliable platform. You can upgrade it. It's got a nice little following. People are, you know, being that it's so new, guys are being innovative. Guys are bringing new things to the table. Yeah. You know, the companies that you've mentioned, they're you can call them, you can talk to them, you can probably call them and say, hey, I have a problem, can you help me come up with a solution?
And I mean, this is like, it's a little more grassroots, the companies that seem to be coming out with stuff. But that's awesome, you know, that's innovation, and the market will just continue to catch up. I feel the market will continue to catch up and release more stuff for the Scorpion EVO.
And you can get into it for a great price, and then if you want to, I mean, you don't have to run this Holosun, you can get away running different optics.
You can run the irons and be happy.
You don't have to run that particular can. You can buy a different can. You don't have to run a can.
Dude, honestly, I would argue that if you don't want to pay for a tax stamp, you can run a brace on this thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost as good. You could put a brace on this gun and it's almost as good. I had a couple extra bucks. I put the stamp on it, but you can get a brace set up. There's a couple new ones out there that are pretty slick. The Shockwave brace, that are pretty good. We had a guy run an FDE EVO with us running an FDE Shockwave brace. I ran it. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything.
Kind of feel like you're cheating, right?
Of course I didn't shoulder it.
Never.
Right? Because I would never dream of that. So, you know, of course there's that. But, I mean, even with a cheek weld, 9mm doesn't recoil that much, and it's a really high value equation. Would I buy this again? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm even deeper into this than what you buy on MSRP now, because I traded a Vepr 12 for it, which I probably paid at the time like $900 straight across for this gun. Don't regret it for a minute. I still have another Vepr 12. Yeah. So, you know, I'd never part with that, but is that a little another video? A little
preview that you're giving people about...
Should we do a Vepr 12 video?
I think
I've got a friend. Vepr 12s.
I've got a friend who's got an AR-15 style 12 gauge that I'm hearing.
He knows who he is.
He's tits. Yeah, you guys know him. We've mentioned his name on the channel.
So
sometimes
we'll
good, sometimes criticizing.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Maybe that's a little Easter egg. So and you know what? I agree with everything you said. You can take this from mild to wild. It doesn't look like an AR-15, but when you start talking money, you're talking AR-15 money. You can start off, you know, with you know, budget-minded stuff, and you can upgrade, and the aftermarket support is just going to continue to grow. I don't think that this is a flash-in-the-pan fad that's going to disappear. I think it'll be around for a long time. I think that your children will still find that to be a real fun platform. I agree. Let's talk about this. Now, when I purchased this particular firearm, let's talk about, again, just to refresh you, what led into the purchase of this. 41P was becoming 41F, and the market was out of these. I mean, you would have to really work to get one, and, you know, if I wanted to, I could have worked, I could have found one of those, but
maybe,
you know, was I going to? I guess I didn't, because that's not what I did. You know, Alpha Cat Armory had this in stock. We got to talking, but let's talk MSRP. MSRP on this monster, you're looking at $1,300 to $1,400, and that's without the brace. If you buy the Sig brace, now you're looking at even more money. So you're going to put a lot of money onto the front end of this, and you better hope that you like it. And unfortunately, firearms, they're not like used cars. You can't go test drive them.
True.
Maybe if you have a nice range, you
or
can
a buddy with one or something.
you can
like
do that. But I had no idea. And I've got other Sig products, and I was reasonably happy with them. I mean, I haven't sold them, so I must be. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. But let's talk MSRP. So you've got $1,400 into this.
that's starting to get close to double what an EVO
That's
costs.
almost double. So you better darn well be a fan. And I did it because I wanted to get into something. I talked about the caliber conversions. I told myself, you know, I can get the 40 cal later. I can sell off the 9 if, you know, someone needs it or they blow theirs up or for some reason there could be some value there.
True.
You know, Lancer mags, Pistol Pete got me into Lancer mags. I'm still running my very first one real hard. I'm a big fan. So then I knew from the get-go that I was going to put the suppressor that I already had on here, and so it made sense to do the other tax stamp for the buttstock. But with the Sig product, I mean, you can get, how much was your buttstock?
I think it was a couple $100 for the kit.
Yeah, a couple $100. It's not much far off for these. I mean, I'm almost a little over 100 on this one, and then I got the Sig version folder because I didn't know which one I wanted. And I knew that I had some trade value there later on down the road. So you're looking at, you know, when it's, you know, to get it up and running as an SBR, you're looking at, you know, you're going to be $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. And then you got tax stamps on top of that, and it's a lot of money.
If you want to upgrade the trigger, you're talking about
more.
Maybe, you know, there's low-end AR options.
There's low-end
but
options.
drop-in,
There's
you know,
high-end options.
Yeah.
You buy yourself a lot of options, and you buy yourself. Let's not pick on the CZ fans any more than we're going to pick on the Sig fans. You know, they've got their own following, and you know, the Sig guys. I knew that if I ever didn't like this before I did the conversion, I knew that I could probably sell this and not lose my hat on the deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I was like, okay, you know what? It's a safe investment. So I went ahead and I did it. I moved forward, and I'm really happy with it. And I don't think that it gives up too much. Is it the best value equation? No, it's not. In fact, you're looking at the best value equation right over there.
Yeah.
The reason that I spent more on this, like I said, call it fear-mongering. You know, if it was today and we know what 41F is, you know, would I go that way? Here's an alert. No, I wouldn't. Well, why wouldn't you? Do you have money to burn? No, I don't have money to burn, no more than the next guy, but there's other things that drive me. One thing that you'll always see, what makes this channel is we don't sit here and buy the same things.
Yeah, true.
You know, from our houses to our cars to the gear that we run to you know, just down to the little things. We don't always like the same things, and I mean, I like that about our friendship.
I'll say that with the Sigs, like, I'm not a big Sig. I like Sig pistols, but I really don't like the Sig ARs, and I have a lot of gripes. And I was busting the Beard's chops about this rig for a while. But I'll tell you what, you know, I'll eat my words and I'll say when I ran it, I did like it. And that when you're comparing these functionally, they're both really awesome.
Yeah, they're great. You know, if I spent a little more time with that, I'd pick it up and it could be second nature. You don't have to spend as much time behind this if you shoot AR-15s. But so let's, you know, the one thing that guys always want to know is which one will we go with, and we've already said that, you know, that from a value equation, if you're comparing the two, you go with that one. If you're more of a fan, if you're more of, you know, you want to get away from the CZ following, you just kind of want to be different, you can go with this, but then you kind of get put into another group of people, which is the Sig crowd, and I'm not about that. So, you know, one thing that I told you is the ergonomics on this were great, and I'm not trying to sell you on that. That's just a fact. A matter of fact is, if you shoot ARs, you're not going to have it. But guess what? Is there a way that I can get a better value per? I'll do it.
Sorry.
So let's wrap it up then. I like what I like. Pistol Pete likes what he likes. We like the ergos here. We like the money there. They're both great investments. Neither one of us are ready to sell it. So, you know what? Is there a way that you can have the familiarity, is that a word? Familiarity?
Yeah.
Of an AR-15, but you don't have to put Sig Sauer money into it? Can you get into it for a Scorpion price, and what's the best of both worlds?
You kind of can, and
You
that's
can't. You absolutely can.
yeah. So that's what we were talking about earlier. One of the things we mentioned, one of the things we didn't mention wasn't on the table was a 9mm AR, right?
Yeah,
Why not go
been
with a
around.
9mm AR?
There's, why didn't I do it? And you know what? That's a great question. I didn't want to have to go through the trouble to build it.
And that's the thing. For a while, I think I stayed away from them. I still don't have one because there's no standard there. You know, you're mixing matching parts. Maybe you're changing buffers, you're changing springs to get it to run perfect. What mags do you run? All these things. But I think the market has really started to say there's been a lot of breakthroughs. Companies like
I don't even know enough about it to
I mean,
know.
I've seen them here and there, and guys, you probably know more about them than I do. But I've seen companies coming out with stuff like AR lowers, AR9 lowers that
dedicated
have Glock
AR
mag wells.
lowers. Yeah.
I mean, that's sweet. Now you got Glock mags. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe finding another AR upper that's a little bit better matched. Now things are starting to change a little bit, and I think that by the time you buy one of those, if you're doing it premium, you're probably coming in somewhere between these, maybe closer to the Sig.
If you're buying all the best parts, you're still probably going to be less than the Sig, and you're going to get exactly what you want.
True.
Or you can go the other route that guys have been doing for a long time with AR builds, and they're specking out good parts that cost less, and there's still a high value there, and you're going to come in maybe even less than the Sig, and you're going to get...
You might be able to do it.
CZ.
You might be able to come in under an EVO price with the way things are today, and if you have some parts laying around, you can use them for a little while, upgrade them later. It's a pretty cool option.
Guys used to talk about building your own AR-15 like it was a bad thing. That you know the term Frankengun.
Mm-hmm.
People, but why is it socially acceptable? Why is it acceptable for a gun guy to buy this platform and change a bunch of stuff out, or spend even more money on this platform and change a bunch of stuff out, but it's not acceptable to spec out like a Palmetto State lower with someone else's upper and someone else's barrel and another guy's trigger?
Yeah.
I think that's silly.
I'm totally over that. In fact, my last AR build was basically a selection of all the parts I wanted.
Yeah.
It tuned it, and it's badass. And
Ultimate
I think
run and gun.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be doing a video on the ultimate run and gun build, at least from my perspective, in the near future. But what if you did that with a 9mm AR?
What if you did it? So we don't have it here on the table, but Alpha Cat
we'll try to roll
actually
in some
has
footage.
one. He's a different kind of guy. He's got his SOT. So
yeah, his is full auto.
If it can hold up to full auto from a guy that really hammers on his gear.
Yeah, I mean, he's run and gun his. He's done just a billion mag dumps with his.
Yeah.
There's been times when it wasn't
Rolling
fully...
the footage.
Yeah, we will. I mean, there's been times where it wasn't fully reliable, but he doesn't necessarily, really run it, hard and run and gun, and he's not relying on it on home defense. If it was a semi-auto, would it be more reliable? Probably. Some of the full auto stuff, there's little tweaks and changes you need to get it perfect.
But there's enough guys out there running all this, and we kind of came to the same conclusion in our Scar v Bren video, and
if you haven't watched, watch it.
I still stand by that. I'm a middle of the road guy. I'm not the wealthiest person in the whole entire world, and I haven't forgotten what it was like being a young enlisted guy with no money.
Yeah, enlisted, in college, in high school even.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, we got nicer toys because we've saved up and we've, we're older now, but I think a lot of our channel is kind of starting to get geared toward people that we used to be, and I still talk a lot of those things, you don't see it in the photo or in the video, but I still drive a vehicle from 1987, and it's got tons of upgrades, and it's super reliable, and I still have a lot of fun with it. So if you guys tuned in and you thought that we're just a bunch of guys born with a ton of money, that's not the case.
Yeah, silver spoons in our butts.
If
not
you
quite,
think that we are going to forget where we came from, well, that's not true either. We just want to have some fun. We've been able to buy some of the nicer things, and from guys with nicer things, we're not going to look down on you.
And on that trajectory, guys, so that AR9 comes in, and it's all of a sudden a pretty realistic option, right? And I would compare it to either one of these. You can do a lot of stuff. But what about that guy who might be in high school or in college? What about, budget options? if you were gonna compare like a budget option to one of these guns, you want to get like a 9mm PCC, but you don't have a lot of money. Maybe you want to start out with a pistol, save up, get the tax stamp, stuff like that.
Yeah, run a brace for a while.
Yeah, run a brace. I mean, well, a brace on this particular option that I had in mind that I thought I'd share isn't really an option. You probably figure it out, but with enough elbow grease, or if you're a good gunsmith or just willing to do some cutting and sawing and gluing, is a PPS 43C in 9mm.
Yeah, Google that one. Look it up. It's not something that
Well,
gets
I'm gonna
thrown
roll
around
in.
a bunch.
I'll roll in footage because I've run mine a ton, and it was actually my first SBR. So I haven't seen them brand new available anywhere, but it's a bit of a Shyamalan twist, right? If you have, at the time, I had $400 burning a hole in my pocket. You know, I think I had enough for the tax stamp. I picked up a PPS 43C. It was like $400, right? It comes with a pistol. There's some really cool history on the gun. I won't talk about it today, but they used to be chambered in 7.62 by 25 Tokarev is the cartridge, I believe, and it's a gnarly cartridge, but they also came with 9mm.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you know, what a cool little rig. A lot of them had welded stocks in place and things like that. Parts kits were available for like $50 for a full parts kit, couple mags, a mag pouch. So I had like $450 plus a tax stamp into it. So that was less than an EVO to have a folding stock, you know, a 9mm PCC. It's not as ergonomic, it's not as compact, but it's kind of a cool option. And if you see mine, I'll roll in some footage of us shooting mine. I turned it into a bit of a project gun. I kind of bubbled it, but it really freaking runs. And
You gotta get into a little bit of gunsmithing.
yeah, mine's had some modifications. I've switched mine over to an AK style grip. I had the shroud shortened and I had it threaded so I could run a suppressor, which it suppresses wonderfully. The stock, you know, the folding stock's kind of like an AK folding stock. Not the best ergos, but again, if you're on a budget and you want to build something up and be a little bit different, I've seen them on Gunbroker. I've seen them on local classifieds. You can occasionally pick one up. And I'm going to go ahead and give one a PPS 43 my seal of approval. I still bring mine out.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of other SBRs at this point that I've kind of put together over the years. But it's a cool,
It's cool.
unique, weird budget option. It's
A
kind
guy
of ugly
like
duckly.
me that really likes to be different.
Yeah.
I want one bad, but in my circle of friends, it puts me like on the coattails of
Like, what
my
are we
buddy
going to do?
here.
Both have PPS
Yeah,
43?
both be different together? No,
and
absolutely
they're harder
not.
to find now, and they would be on the used market. But again, budget option, guys. Mine rocks. There's ways to make rails for them, AK grips modified to them. The triggers suck, but it's a budget option. You know what I mean? And
So if you got a little more ingenuity in you,
yep,
you can go that route. If you know you don't want to take the risk, but you want to save some money, then you go the AR version route, and
Yep.
and either way.
if you're a
think
CZ
you're gonna-
fanboy, you're gonna buy the Scorpion.
You're
If
gonna
a
buy it
Sig
anyway.
If
Yeah.
you're a Sig fanboy, you're gonna buy the MPX.
Gonna buy.
It's
You've
just how
already
it
got
is.
one.
Yeah.
It's you gotta
And
gotta have it in
you're
the club.
biting your nails to hear us say one is better than the other. I
Yeah.
think that they're damn close. I think the price maybe makes a little bit of a gap, but other than that, they're both excellent rifles.
Yeah,
I don't
they're
think you
great.
can go wrong.
Yeah.
Or pistols, rifles, whatever.
You probably tuned in and you wasted a ton of time, and you're like, "You guys are jerks. You didn't
Yeah,
you didn't
again,
favor
right?
one or the other,
Yeah.
and then you give me some budget build." But those are the kind of guys we are. So we're 2 videos into this, and we're gonna continue to do what we do best.
Yeah.
We're going to tease each other. We're going to assert our opinion on each other, and then we're gonna bring them out here to the desert.
And
We're gonna
the
run them
shit
hard.
out of them.
And you know what? If one of them fails, that particular firearm is going to get criticized. It's not necessarily a reflection on Pistol Pete or myself. I didn't build it. He didn't build it.
But that's what's so cool. We're not sponsored by anybody. These are our own dollars. We got a
This sounds great, by the way.
ghetto bird out in the middle of nowhere somehow. We're in the middle of nowhere, by the way.
We're in the middle
So
of nowhere.
end of the day, if something comes up about, if there's a wart on one of these guns, it's coming out.
It's gonna
and we
be-
will not let the other person live it down. I
It's-
don't think you can go wrong with either one of these.
I don't think you can. I mean, if you got the money to do either one of these, get either one of them. If you like one more than the other, get both of them. I don't
Yeah.
care what you do.
There's a reason they're the most popular on the market.
Yeah, they're for a reason. And you know what? We've said this in previous videos. I'll say it again. Is if you're in this Phoenix area, you know, hit us up. We've got a guy that invited us to go shoot with him in Texas.
Yep.
I don't know that I'll ever be there, but if I am, I'm definitely gonna hit him up. You
Yeah.
know, we're a small channel. We got 100 subscribers. Nobody
Yeah.
knows about us, but you know what? That's kind of the way that we like things.
Yeah, we're a grassroots crew, so keep tuning in. Not everyone will end with anonymity and grayness. I mean, we'll probably have some come to the table that they'll be clear winners, so don't think that that's our MO.
Yeah, it's, you know what? You know who's gonna win? The one that doesn't leave us stranded.
Yeah, that's true.
One's not gonna win. Another one's just gonna take a dump, and we're gonna call it a piece of crap.
And that's going to be a really funny video. So
Yeah,
keep
I hope
tuning
I'm
in,
not
guys.
losing into that.
Keep tuning in. Subscribe, share.
Yeah, share
if
with
you
your
like
friends,
us.
please, if you like us. And
If you don't like us, add some negative comments because I do like those.
I
Keep it
love
coming.
reading the troll comments.
Keep it coming.
Let's do a troll video.
Come
at
out from
some
under your
point.
bridge and troll us. I like it.
Bring on the troll.
So on that note, guys, our wives are calling, so we got to roll.
Oh man, she's gonna see that I didn't wear my ring in this video. No, she's not. She doesn't even watch this video.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a cool point. So, guys, peace. Catch you later. Spent Browse channel. Check it out.
Thanks, guys.